All right, we are live for the morning check-in, and as always, excited to be back and looking forward to connecting, sharing with you some things that caught my attention, and yeah, just trying to make sense of this crazy monetary experiment that we're all witnessing in real time. So, welcome to the live stream, everybody. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let me know if the video is coming in clear. Let me know if we're flowing somewhat smoothly. I have maybe 6 or 7 tabs open, but I want to focus on one subject matter in particular just because it has to do with the ESG movement and how, even though it's been relatively squashed yet silent, not quite sure how to read into it, but it looks like BlackRock's up to something with their new gamble, and it has to do with creating a Texas stock exchange. And I have my thoughts as to why that is. But when I saw that announcement yesterday, some alarm bells went off, and so I thought I would come before you today, put together some ancient information to show how it's more so a last minute effort and push by the institutions to gain access to the markets in Texas, given that Texas is the second biggest, has the second biggest economy out of all the states. And so just another cash grab through the financialization and the creation of products, and in particular here, a new stock exchange. So I got some thoughts I want to share with you. But before I do that, let me know if everything is flowing smoothly. Let me check the chat real quick. As always, if we have any first-time viewers to the community, whether on YouTube or Rumble, welcome back. And if you're a returning visitor, a member of the community, definitely let me know where you're watching from. We'd love to acknowledge your presence. And then if you're watching a replay, feel free to leave shout-outs in the comment section, and I'll try to get to some question, thoughts, ideas as I can. So anyway, hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the live stream. Let me make sure I'm flowing everywhere smoothly on all platforms. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit that bell notification so that you are notified, hopefully. And if you're on Rumble, make sure to hit that check mark so that you're plugged in when we go live. And yeah, you'll never miss an episode, hopefully. And also, outside of these two platforms here, I want to encourage you to follow us on the socials. So information is in the description, but the one where we are active the most happens to be Telegram. And so if you join us there, you'll always be able to plug in and share thoughts, ideas, suggestions, content from your favorite creators. Feel free to do so there. That's how we all learn and grow in this world we're living in. So, all right, I won't be before you long this morning. Want to really dial in and get to the nitty gritty of everything. And so we start off with the typical format, get into some good news from the good word based upon the devotional I read. And then we'll get into the primary subject. And then I'll try to get some Q&A towards the end. So if you have anything that you're keeping an eye on, feel free to put it in the chat and highlight at RTD TV so to stand out. And I'll try to, answer it, share my thoughts on it or whatever. And if we got any experts in any subject matter relative to what we talk about, have at it in the chat, man. That's where you get a chance to share your expertise because it's needed. Everybody has an area of or a gifting or something of that nature that they can contribute to the community. And that's how we can all learn and grow from each other. So do that. Okay, let's jump into it, man. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. All right, let me, looks like, let me make sure everything is flowing. I feel like I'm lagging or something. I see 5x5. What is the 5x5? Let me know what that's all about. Okay, looks like the chat is lagging as well. Okay, we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work here. I want to make sure this is effective and efficient for everybody. And even all of our metrics are somewhat skewed. Okay, but no matter what, I gotta keep it moving. Let's get into that good news this morning, man. Let's make it work here. So here we have June 5th. And as always, I like to dive in and share just a little bit of something that I plug into in the mornings outside of the word and everything like that. But it says, your high calling. Let me bring it up on my screen so I can see it. Too many tabs. Okay, it says, be sure to carry out the ministry the Lord gave you. And this is from Colossians 4:17, the New Living Translation. And it goes on to say here, do you find God must constantly prod you to keep growing in your faith? Or perhaps you've progressed in your relationship with him, but there's not much fruit and you wonder what's going on. It says, if so, then it may be that the Lord has called you to serve him in a specific way. It says, but you've refused. It said, Okay. Another angle. Let me get out of this. Oh, man. Let me do this here. Okay, too many windows. Bear with me, people. Work in progress here. It said it's possible that you're not using your gifts to honor him, or you are ministering in areas that make you feel comfortable rather than obeying what he's already asked you to do. It says, friend, you may have your own goals, but remember the highest. Okay. I'm lagging. So what else? Man, I get sidetracked. Forgive me, people. Says rather obeying his whatever. Okay, friend, you may have your own goals, but remember the highest, most wonderful purpose you can embrace is to faithfully carry out whatever he specifically created you to do. According to Ephesians 2:10, says those who follow him in such a way encounter adversity, yes, but they also experience the power of the Holy Spirit for guidance, faith, hope, and strength when doing the Father's will. Then it says that is life at its very best. So don't settle for anything less. Be sure to carry out the ministry he gives you. Then the closing prayer is, Lord, where would you have me to serve you? What did you create me to do? Lead me. I will obey and glorify you. Amen. All right. So there we have it. Just a little bit of some good news this morning to hopefully charge you up spiritually, get you started on your day, give you something to think about. More importantly, give you some little bit of scripture here, give you an opinion or analysis on that scripture. But more than likely, the goal is to trigger something within your spirit so that the Lord can work with you and through you to accomplish what he put you here to do. That's what it's all about. Glorifying the King himself. Okay, let's keep it moving, people. Okay. So, story that caught my attention, as I mentioned, for those who are just plugging in, Texas Stock Exchange has been put out there into the ether in reference to Blackrock and a couple other institutions looking to create an avenue into the Texas economy. And it has everything to do, in my opinion, with the rejection of the ESG movement over the last 2-3 years since the Great Awakening or Great Reset began. And so BlackRock ain't slick. They're gambling. They're trying to get into the Texas economy. And there's benefits to it. And I'm going to walk through some of the benefits, the pros and cons, and things like that, and then share my 2 cents on it. And then we'll get into some other things. But I want to start off with some developing news, if I may. It looks like, let me bring this on the screen here. The Bank of Canada, our northern neighbors, have decided to cut interest rates 0.25%. And so they are the latest leading nation to decide to pivot. And I got more I can talk about, but I was just going to thumb through this real quick. It says the Bank of Canada lowers its policy interest rate by 25 basis points or 0.25 percentage point to 4.75% from 5%, in line with what many economists had predicted. So clearly, what we're witnessing now is the beginning, the reversal of monetary policy being led by, less important central banks or nations. And so we have the ECB up next. I think they're going to probably pivot 0.25 or probably 10% or something like that, or 0.10%. And then the other banks will follow. A lot of other European banks, or, you get my drift. And so I was actually today speaking with a good friend of mine who lives in Iceland and had some great talk. And he was telling me about the issues they're having in Iceland and just how central banks is doing what they do everywhere. They're destroying economies, causing mass cost of living increases in every area. And he was even saying that a lot of his friends and buddies are not in the best position monetarily. And then current, mortgage rates for a 10-year fixed rate in Iceland at this current moment is 10.5%. And so that's pricing a lot of people out of the housing market, on top of the fact Iceland is an extremely expensive country. And so had some good back and forth. And yeah, I'll share more on that. But so my point to him was every country right now is under the same type of experimentation. And it's all about propping up the banks. And then we got on the G-SIBs because, someone he knows works for the central bank there. And they're working on some risk management mechanisms for the G-SIBs. And this is a employee within the Icelandic Reserve Bank there. So interesting talk. But then again, I left him off with the idea that, hey, no matter what, the system has to come down. It's just a matter of different nations trying to control the speed at which their economies crumble. And of course, the Federal Reserve will be the last one to pivot. And I even put him on game in reference to what's happening within his own country, referencing how, even though he may not be able to talk about it, or his friend may not be able to talk about it, they're developing and working on a CBDC. And I'll share some information with how Iceland they produced their white paper in 2018, and they're in line with every other nation to roll out the CBDC after this great catastrophe that takes place and the rebuilding of the economy. So anyway, long story there, got a little sidetracked there, but it was just interesting to speak to a friend who doesn't pay attention to events the way that I do. Let me see here. Appreciate you for the love offering. We have Benjamin, praise Yah alone, stacking coins. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you, my friend, for that love offering. Thanks for blessing the channel. Okay. What do we got here? I see someone says, Mr. Boston says, watch the TED Talk about living on an empty planet. Their plans are global, nuclear war. Yeah, anything's possible. But then again, I don't think that the good Lord will allow them to execute their plans entirely, because we know ultimately everything that they are doing, they meaning the principalities and powers that are at work, they're ultimately working within the framework that is already established. So even though the enemy wants to wipe out humanity in its entirety, we already know that won't be the case, according to the kingdom message, the kingdom faith, as I want to put it. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Okay, I don't want to waste any more time, man. Let's get into it, nitty gritty. So let me share with you some of the things that we've talked about before, but I want to build up a case as to why, this particular movement is not beneficial for the average investor. It's another mechanism that the banking sector will use to siphon currency out of the hands of the average Joe, disguising it as an investment opportunity, when in actuality, the fees and even the structure will benefit the banks themselves. What do I mean by that? Let's jump into it. So here we have some headlines to lay out my case as to where I'm leading with this. But we were talking about this 2 years or so ago when Texas decided to go against the grain. And, Governor Abbott, during the time, along with, the policymakers in Texas, decided to push back against Blackrock, a.k.a. Larry Fink's new financial instrument labeled as ESG Investing, with all their different, schemes that they piled into that crap. But real quick here, it says, Texas school fund pulls $8.5 billion from BlackRock. So literally, as a result of this new product that was created as a way of fighting and combating climate change, is the way they're trying to sell it. But we know it's ultimately an extra tax on the public. The state began to pull back. So real quick, it says a Texas school fund told BlackRock on Tuesday, this was back in 2022, so it's 2 years. But then again, as after events like this, you get 8 billion here, 10 billion here, 20 billion here, 30 billion here. It catches people's attention. And so back then, it says Tuesday, it was terminating its contract to manage around 8.5 billion of state money, accusing the investment giant of boycotting fossil fuel energy producers who represent a large part of the state's industry. It says BlackRock has denied it's engaged in any boycott, saying that the money pulled is a tiny sliver of the 10 trillion in assets that it manages. So ultimately, as a part of this whole ESG movement, sustainable global development crap, it's all designed at minimizing carbon emission through the moving away from fossil fuel usage, which oil, gas, petroleum, everything that we run upon. They're trying to defund those industries, which ultimately hinders a good chunk of Texas economy. Okay, so Texas pushed back because they're a heavy petroleum state. And so as a result of that, there was more backlash. So we have here, let me share this with you real quick here. It says BlackRock, this was following, a couple big institutions decided to pull funds. This is what followed. BlackRock, UBS, and 348 ESG funds banned in Texas. So imagine, by BlackRock funds being banned in Texas, that's the equivalent of $2 trillion worth of unearned assets on there, which could have been in their coffers. And so literally, that was a major blow to BlackRock and UBS and all the other institutions. And so real quick here, this is what was published. This was in 2022. It says Wall Street giants have a Texas-sized problem, making good on flashy vows to make clients' investments greener while limiting political and financial blowback from the red states. So literally, due to this going green movement, it has hindered BlackRock's ability to get into Texas to do what they want to do by introducing a new financial product that benefited them. Okay, so what's the real benefit of the ESG movement all along? Let's dive into it. So I typed in, how does bank profits off of ESG movement? And the answer is, Banks can potentially profit from ESG, environmental, social governance movement in several ways. One, new revenue streams from ESG's focused products and services. What are some of these products? Offering green loans, bonds, and investment products aligned with ESG principles. So green loans and green bonds. And just all you do is just put green in front of it, makes it sound like it's saving the planet, it's patriotic, and you're doing your part. But actually, it's another product centered around the dollar that ultimately provides fees and further empowers BlackRock and the banking sector in general to extract purchasing power ultimately from the people, because the average Joe won't know anything about these type of mechanisms. And so you're going to have institutions basically funneling funds through these products, making fees, earning yield off these products at the expense of the people. And while they're telling you that you breathing carbon is not as harmful to the earth, and so you have to pay your fair share by either paying for extra carbon credits or you invest in these products, and that allows you to eat an extra hamburger when you're hungry. Anyway, number two, it says it attracts more investors and customers. Number three, it mitigating risk and potential losses. And then four, cost savings from operational efficiency. So ultimately, it saves the banks and all the participants of these products they're serving. It helps their operational expenses. So like a kind of like a tax write-off. They get to buy carbon credits and get to sell these products and then benefit from it monetarily and policy speaking. So that's a part of the narrative we were sold. But Texas pushed back. Okay, sure. Now, why was that so important? Texas GDP in comparison to other states, I decided to look that up. And so it says Texas has the second largest economy among U.S. states with a GDP of 1.9 trillion as of 2022. Only California economy is larger at 2.9. So literally, Texas accounts for 9.1% of the total U.S. GDP, producing 9% of all goods and services in the country. The Texas economy is the 8th largest in the world when compared to national economies, ahead of countries like Canada, Russia, and Australia. New York has the third largest state, and of course, they already hijacked New York. So the goal is to spread their tentacles, meaning the banking sector, with these new products. And so when you have that type of revenue potential in Texas, with them being basically an economy in and of itself, that's a lot to miss out on. And so I can see how if we can't go in through the front door with a new product via the ESG movement, let's just go through the back door with another product that might benefit us instead. No matter what, we need access to that economy so that we can benefit. And this is me as a, BlackRock, criminal investigator type of, approach. Yeah. Okay. So what did they propose instead? This is where we get into the latest news. It says new Texas Stock Exchange gets backing from BlackRock and Citadel, aims for launch in 2025. So here's a question. The stock exchange, Wall Street, and Nasdaq, all these mechanisms used to profit off a country or a company's productivity by offering the public access to these companies via buying into their share prices, while all along the holders and the true owners of the actual deeds or titles to this interchange value. You give us funds, we invested it for you. That certificate of purchase belongs to the DTCC. And so I got more to share about that as well. The tokenization of a 2-point-something quadrillion dollar market is taking place right now, and it won't benefit us one bit. Anyway, so if BlackRock can't go through the front door, they come in through the back door. The back door is with the creation of a Texas Stock Exchange. And so real quick, some information here. It says Wall Street giants, including BlackRock and Citadel, are backing Texas Stock Exchange with a $120 million investment. So once again, whenever the big institutions decide to invest somewhere, it's usually because they see something of extreme value. And that value happens to be the products, goods, and services within that region, and then packaging it up into services and products that they can then sell to the average consumer, or what used to be considered an investor. But then again, if you're being if you're being persuaded and pointed to a direction where it's not in your best interest, is it really considered investing anymore? Even though you're going to earn way less than what the real rate of inflation is. So ultimately, you're getting a negative return in the long run. And then you factor in the fees that they're going to charge you for participating in this, casino here. it's ultimately not going to be beneficial for the average person unless you're a higher net worth individual. If you're on the lower end of that totem pole, you're not benefiting. Okay. It says the new exchange plans to compete with the New York Stock Exchange and the Nasdaq, aiming to begin operation 2025. It says Texas Stock Exchange will potentially promote growth and strengthen Texas' position as a financial hub. And so here we have Blackrock, Citadel, and a lot of other companies wanting to help Texas become a financial investment hub in the middle of what is going to be considered a historical, monetary, financial restructuring with this reset that we're all witnessing in multiple facets. And right now, BlackRock really want to invest 120 million into making Texas great again. Right. It's a setup. They're literally trying to go through the back door, as I mentioned, to create another way to get access to all that funds there. So imagine this. Let's play through some hypotheticals. So right now, this is all pending. It's not official. Hopefully, Texas Governor Abbott, if they're not on a take, all the Congress people within the country, within the state, if they're not on a take, they'll see right through this, reject this. Because what will happen is if they allow Texas to get into their state, I keep saying country, into their state, and then create a market where all their companies within Texas will eventually list on their Texas Stock Exchange, funds will pour in, which will be beneficial for those companies. But then again, the share valuations will ultimately float towards a very small few of companies that will end up owning a good portion of those entities within this listed on their stock exchange. And that'll be the way that BlackRock and Citadel can then sway and lead activity within those countries based upon their investment directly into those companies via holding shares. And so ultimately, if they don't tax them through the ESG movement with all these green bonds, green loans, green this, green that, they'll still end up owning a good chunk of those companies, which will have a major hindrance on how those companies can remain independent of the banking cartel's manipulation by being majority shareholders within that exchange there. So anyway it go, if they allow this creation of a stock exchange at this point of the game, when we're coming towards the end, it's clearly a manipulation tool that will be utilized by BlackRock and the like to own everything and leave Texas business owners, more than likely indebted in some capacity or suffering because they won't reap the full benefits the way that BlackRock and Citadel will. Okay. So let me keep it moving real quick. Read a couple more things here, and then we'll get into some other stuff here. But when I saw this Texas Stock Exchange, I'm thinking like creating a stock exchange in the midst of a reset is like, come on, like that's a cash grab, that's a money grab. And so, despite the dominance of New York Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, and corporate stock listings, Texas Stock Exchange backers, including Citadel Securities and BlackRock, provide significant support. These firms have potentially supported other upstart exchanges like Members Exchange. It says Citadel spokesperson confirmed that the company is an investor in the Texas Stock Exchange and the like. And so we'll see if this gets approved. And so it has to go through the process. It says Texas Stock Exchange secured approximately 120 million from investors. It also plans to file registration documents with the United States Securities Exchange Commission later this year. Operations are expected to start 2025 with the first listing planned in 2026. So it says it'll be all virtual, but they'll have an office in Dallas. It says the exchange will be entirely electronic, but physically present in Dallas. It also aims to compete for primary and dual listings, including exchange-traded products. So it's all digital. More than likely, it's going to be a part of the experimentation of this, tokenized asset future that they're creating. BlackRock leading the way, and they're leveraging the benefits of the Ethereum blockchain to create these tokenization of assets. And so it's good that they're going to use this as an experiment. And there's no physical location other than a single building, which may have some servers in it. So ultimately, BlackRock being centered, for the most part, in New York, everything will be flowing through New York. And it'll come across Larry Fink's desk as their product, in a sense, that's focusing on benefit from the state of Texas productivity while having a single building with maybe, a couple, maybe 100 employees at best, but ultimately everything running through the internet on a server, on a network where everything flows back to New York. So you get what I'm saying here. Literally, this is just a moving of the deck, a slight movement of manipulation of behind the table, trying to make this look like a viable option. So, yeah, BlackRock ain't slick. They want trillions. They want the world. Okay, that's what's happening there. That's just my thoughts there. And okay, let me get into some other things here real quick. Some things that caught my attention, and then we'll do a little Q&A. Back into the world. Let me delete some things here. Now let's get back into some things happening in the Main Street economy that's going to impact us all at some level. Here's an interesting synopsis of the commercial real estate industry and how literally it is already leading the world down. And when you have Deutsche Bank taking losses here in the US, you know something's up. So here we got, this is just a little post that I follow from the Triple Net Investor. It says, this is absolutely insane. Deutsche Bank takes a shocking $350 million loss on a Manhattan office building. Deutsche Bank paid $500 million for the tower at 222 Broadway in 2014, so 10 years ago. They just sold the building to a TPG JV for $150 million. They paid $500, sold it for $150 million. That's a heck of a loss. But once again, when it's funds that they have earned or created out of the financialization of products sold to depositors and their other financial vehicle or instruments they've created, it's all profit for them. So those losses really don't fall on the shareholders of the company because they still get paid regardless. But if Deutsche Bank goes down, the losses fall upon the government, which then falls upon the taxpayer. So anyway, it goes to win-win for them. It says the office meltdown in Manhattan has gone from scary to disaster for many Class B and C buildings. So, yeah, losses are piling up. I was actually, before I went live, I was looking at the central bank losses and how, as of right now, what were the numbers I came up with? 75. It was some very concerning losses where a good 40% or more. This was from older survey of the central banks are all experiencing losses. I mean, they have negative yielding debt on their balance sheets as a result of them hijacking interest rates to where they're now eating those losses. And ultimately, it falls onto the government's shoulders, which eventually falls onto the taxpayer. So in no form or fashion can people say that, the powers that be, centered in the UN, World Economic Forum, BIS, that they're losing. They're literally in control of the game. And as they experience hiccups, they just rewrite the rules to the game to benefit them at the expense of the people who get up every morning to go work and exchange value, time, and energy for these instruments here. So long as this game is in play, whether it be the Euro, the whatever, the Icelandic Corona, whatever, they still have more tools in their chest. So it's not until people realize this is the greatest threat to their financial security and begin, I guess, rethinking how they value and assess their financial futures in USD terms for here, citizens here, and begin getting back to more historical, constitutional based principles. Well, of course, with gold and silver being the primary hedge and protection mechanism, with everything else built on top of that as speculative opportunities, especially the crypto space where they're steering us towards, or even if you're in NFTs or tokenized assets or whatever you might be dabbling in, make sure you got your foundation, financially speaking, in metals. I want to make it seem like I'm talking about, put your trust in metals. No, put your trust in the Lord and he'll provide for you. He'll give you wisdom and insight on how to maneuver in the midst of all this craziness to where it's no matter what currency you're forced to use, or whether it's a CBDC or a paper dollar or whatever, long as your needs are met, which God always manages to take care of his own. So just a little side note for those who might be, questioning, God at this current moment. But okay, couple later. I mentioned DTCC earlier. So here's another thing that caught my attention. Somebody shared, and I wasn't aware of this, but I take it for what it is, knowing that there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes in reference to the digitization of the world. And so Samantha Ledeck, who I do follow, let me see, I don't follow her, but there's another Samantha, so I'm not sure. But anyway, she's whatever. Yahoo Finance, curious cross asset analyst, whatever. So she follows this stuff regularly. So I take it with a grain of salt. It says this is now the fourth technical glitch in over a week. It says, why did DTCC drop this today? And this was 8 hours ago. And so this right here, basically just DTCC reference guide, unscheduled closing of exchanges and markets for clearing agencies. So this was as of yesterday, 264. So, once again, as they're rebooting and restructuring the system, ultimately switching up the methods as to how they have been able to control the world before, going from the analog to the digital realm. And so there's a lot of servers being turned on globally that will support the networks that will ultimately control the tokenization of assets, whether it be through, they're all going to eventually be centralized ledgers, but they're learning and developing and growing based upon the decentralized movement, which was a part of the plan from day one. It's no coincidence. People shouldn't consider it a coincidence that I actually watched a pro CBDC video the other day where people are excited about working with CBDCs. And they were saying that, we wouldn't be talking about any of this if it wasn't for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is what put stable coins on the radar, because that was an easy entry point for dollars and fiat into a digital form that was easily interoperable for Bitcoin and other cryptos. And so he was saying that it's because of Bitcoin we have stable coins, which makes it possible for governments to experiment with the eventual rollout of CBDCs. And at the end of it, they meaning the people who are working behind the scenes, they see a world where stable coins and CBDCs can be universally used because they'll ultimately be controlled by the same people who control the system now. And as time moves forward, and as we get it more into a digital, we're forced to use digital, meaning that when you go places, they won't accept cash no more, because it'll be like universally accepted that cash becomes a burden for businesses to accept, because they not have to pay a fee on top of that to then turn it into the bank, because the banks don't want it no more. Then at that point, it's going to be some legislation put in place that would allow businesses, because they're private companies, to not accept cash. And then at that point, outside of bartering or doing activity, directly hand to hand, peer to peer, the way things will eventually lead to as a dual economy, cash won't be really needed. And so the people are arguing that it costs central banks and governments hundreds of millions of dollars per year to create new paper and coins, and it's becoming somewhat of a cost burden for them. So they're going to begin dialing back. Therefore, whatever cash is available now will become even scarce and more valuable to the users of it, because at some point, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and it seems like 2 years, I mentioned before, is the going time frame before every central bank will have to have their CBDC out. And I'm ranting a little bit, but once again, dropping nuggets, I believe. So let me share with you. I shared a video on Telegram. I'll take a screenshot of it, and so I encourage everybody here, click the link in the description. So that you can join the Telegram, and you'll definitely be more informed than the average Joe. But let me share with you a screenshot here of something that I shared there, because it's a video and it's long, but it does a good job of giving you insights as to what all central bankers are mandated globally to work on. Like, this is not just a central bank of US versus central bank of whoever. No, they're all getting orders from the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements. And so they're working hand in hand to accomplish this particular goal here. So let me put this on the screen here. Bear with me real quick. It'll be worth your time, I guarantee. So this is some insight into a central banker. So this lady here, she's the deputy governor of Rwanda's central bank. And so in this little 2-minute video here, she laid out their white paper that was just released, and the 4 benefits to having a CBDC. And the third one on the list was to continue to push their cashless agenda. And so real quick here, I'll read the things behind me that you can't see. Or maybe if no. Okay, you won't be able to see it, but real quick here, let me see if I can scroll up. Give me 1 second here. And so this right here, as you probably can't see, anyway, it has about 1,000 views, so people really vibe this. It says Rwanda is developing its own central bank digital currency. It's a central Central African country plans on launching its own CBDC in the next 2 years. It says in an interview with Soraya Longlane, deputy governor of Rwanda Central Bank, she explained the reasoning for the CDC, including, quote, the cashless agenda that we're on. She said that out of her mouth. Cashless agenda that we're on, referring to the instructions that she's been given to implement a cashless society for the purposes of the CBDC within 2 years. So let me, so if you don't believe me, let me I'll give you some homework for my people who want to dive a little deeper into this. But, usually on my end, I nerd out to stuff like this just because, I just consider this stuff to be extremely important. Give me a second here. Let me share with you some headlines from the article. And then if you want to go look it up yourself, you can. Okay, so here's the actual article that links to the video. So it says Rwanda mauls a digital currency in 2 years. And here's a video, whatever, that highlights more of the points. But my point in all of this is that we're well along the pathway towards the rebranding and restructuring of the monetary system. It's already done in certain areas. It's a matter of creating the right environment to where people become so distressed, so weighted down with debt, and so desperate that they willingly accept the solutions to the problems that they created. That's what it's about. So give it time. Let the pressure continue to squeeze on households, families, and wives and husbands, causing all types of damage within the families. Then mom and dad would be like, sure, I'll download that app because I need to feed my kids. If you're going to give me $2,000 a month, as long as I follow these criteria here, sure, sign me up. That's how easy it'll be. Similar to how if something happened in the world, there's a health issue, everybody feel like it's their patriotic duty to wear a mask to protect their neighbor. Yeah, this is the reset. This is what a reset looks like. But be of good cheer, people. That's why it's clear. So as I wrap things up, I love being able to share the devotion, but I'm also on the back end, as I get into the word more, I find inspiration and encouragement within my own spirit to really reframe and reshape my thought processes on how I view things. And it's imperative for me, I'm speaking about me, to adapt to a more kingdom mindset in reference to, if Jesus Christ is my Lord, seated on the throne at the right hand of the Father now, he's made it clear that all my provision comes through seeking his kingdom first. So what does that look like in the 21st century, in a world where we're in a democracy where we think we need to do it for ourselves first or won't be done? How do we counter that narrative of living a world where we're supposed to sustain ourselves based upon our own energy and efforts, in opposition to the kingdom method, which is everything belongs to God, created for him, by him, for us to enjoy. If we are obedient to him, that he provides, he adds to us all the things we need. Like, that conflicting worldview is going to be pivotal for all my believers moving forward. And so it's worth studying and diving deeper and deeper into. And that's kind of where I'm at this current moment, because I want to be a type of person where I already don't, but then again, out of human nature, if you work so hard for certain things, you treasure it, you value it, because you're supposed to enjoy it. But when the system is designed to steal from you intentionally through taxation, inflation, all types of other means, it makes it that much more uncomfortable to enjoy the fruits of your labor. But I know that's God's will. So if I make sure in my mind that everything belongs to him and I'm just a steward of it, then I don't have nothing to lose. It makes it easier to work and serve and give with the idea that it's not mine anyway, because it belongs to him. And he'll make sure, he always has and always will provide for me what I need when I need it. That's how I'm renewing and trying to get my thoughts processed around living in the midst of a reset in the natural, knowing that God is resetting things in the spiritual realm as well for my good. But anyway, hope that's of benefit to you guys. All right, good people. That's all she wrote for today. We're at 39 minutes, but hope this was of value too. If it was, hit that thumbs up button, share this video, or grab something out of here that's of value that you think people can learn from, and let's put it out there.